Okay, we're going to get started now. I think most of our attendees have come into the webinar. Greetings, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome all of you to this webinar on court staffing strategies and personnel management in times of crisis, the recruitment and retention of court staff. My name is Pam Harris, and I'm the president of the International Association for Court Administration, IACA, and I will be moderating this event. Some housekeeping details. This session will be available on YouTube, and you can find the link in the chat box or on the IACA website. If during the session you have questions, please use the chat function, and we will make every effort to get those questions at the end of the seminar. We also have Ukrainian interpretation available, as you just heard. Please press the interpretation button on the lower part of your screen if you choose to have that interpreted. We were thrilled to have over 570 attendees registered here today. We might get a few hundred of you, but all of you representing a diverse group of professionals committed to strengthening and enhancing your judiciary's ability to serve communities, even in the most challenging times. As we all know, courts are at the very heart of ensuring justice, and it is the people who work in these institutions that enable this vital service to function efficiently and effectively. However, the complexities of modern day challenges, whether in the form of political, economic, health-related emergencies, or even in wartime, these factors have all placed an immense strain on our workforces, especially in the Ukraine. This webinar will focus on how we can address these pressures, drawing on best practices in human resource management with the various courts you will hear from today. Over the next hour and a half, we will explore innovative and practical solutions for some of the most pressing issues facing courts. We'll dive into strategies for managing staff turnover, a challenge that often intensifies during periods of crisis, and we'll examine how to foster a work environment where motivation and morale can thrive, even when circumstances are less than ideal. Additionally, we'll look at how we can support the professional development of your court staff, ensuring that they have tools, training, and resources to navigate and lead through turbulent times. This webinar aims not only to provide insights into effective recruitment and retention strategies, but also to share inspiring stories from our speakers about how different jurisdictions have overcome similar challenges. It's a time for collaboration, for learning from one another, and for reaffirming our commitment to the courts and the people who make them run smoothly. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to a productive and inspiring webinar. Now, please welcome Olha Bolka, Deputy Head of the State Judicial Administration of Ukraine. Olha?
Дякую. Доброго дня, шановні колеги та учасники.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues, dear participants to the webinar. Good afternoon. I cannot but start by extending my appreciation to our partners, to our international friends, because proper administration of courts is a very important aspect of court operation. I'm immensely grateful to all the speakers who will contribute to this webinar. Under war conditions, the justice shall continue to be administered, so the court operation cannot be suspended. That is why Ukrainian courts resume their operation despite the war, despite active hostilities taking place in its territory. In the meantime, we cannot but face the reality and acknowledge that challenges and difficulties that we encounter have multiplied. The most important thing is to protect people's life, of course, and this is what we keep in mind as our top priority. However, we cannot cast aside material losses and logistic difficulties that Ukrainian judiciary is facing in connection with the active hostilities. Some 150 buildings of Ukrainian courts have been either completely destroyed or heavily damaged because of the hostilities. The premises of court security service of state judicial administration units in regions have suffered. Speaking of the administrative staff, its number in Ukraine goes up to 27,000 people on paper. However, in the reality, there are some 22,000 people who actually exercise their professional duties. That is why we face the lack of personnel for the purposes of court administration. The reasons are multiple. They are, of course, linked to the wartime, but also to low salaries and quite challenging work conditions. Unfortunately, the remuneration which is offered to court administrators is not competitive compared to market salaries. That is why it is quite difficult to motivate existing employees and to involve more people, good professionals from outside. That is why the topic of the webinar is very much on time. We do hope that we will hear some good practices, some practical advice today that we will be able to put in practice in our country. I wish us all good and productive work today. Thank you.
Thank you, Olha. We cannot imagine, at least I cannot imagine what you are going through in your country. And we are hopeful that we can bring something to you for your employees. We are all so very sorry that you continue to go through this time of stress, but you certainly have perseverance, and we are all out there for our Ukrainian friends. For additional welcoming remarks, we have Oksana Simbraviska, the team leader of the EU Project Pravo-Justice. Oksana?
Thank you. Доброго дня, шановні учасники, шановні партнери, колеги.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues, dear friends. It is my pleasure to contribute to opening remarks of today's event. The event is dedicated to very important and topical issues Ukraine is facing today. Living in wartime, we understand that a proper HR strategy for the judiciary has become even more important than previously, because it is the stable judicial system which strengthens public confidence in the state and the rule of law and in democracy. The judicial system is one of cornerstones of each state, and the court administration is the body which contributes to the stability and continuity of operation of the judiciary in any country. For Pravo-Justice project implemented by the European Union, the issue of proper judicial administration has been on the agenda since 2018. We have applied a lot of efforts in this area, and we continue providing our support to local beneficiaries. We are proud of the relations of cooperation with international organizations and associations, including the International Association for Court Administration. I cannot but mention a very important initiative which was launched by Pravo-Justice project in 2018. I'm talking about the Model Courts initiative. We started with 6 pilot courts. As of now, the said initiative has been extended to 90 courts across the country. The initiative is aimed at the implementation of best solutions in courts, starting from some innovations and best practices in the field of court administration, and up to the implementation and deployment of various digital solutions. The initiative has been in place for 6 years now, and we have a strong intention and commitment to continue this initiative in the upcoming years. I hope that today we will have a wonderful opportunity to learn from other countries, from best practice, from experience of other countries. And I would like to assure that our today meeting is not the last one. We are planning to have more events dedicated to the most topical issues in the field of court administration. Thank you very much, and I wish us all good luck and very pleasant discussion today.
Thank you, Oksana. We all wish you luck, and with your new initiatives, we are hopeful that you will see great success in that. Now, for our initial segment today, we are going to discuss innovative approaches and modern recruitment strategies, leveraging technology, social media, and partnerships in successful recruitment initiatives. As a reminder, and in an effort to save precious time, all of our presenters' bios can be found in your materials. I will assure you that you will find each and every one of these individuals are very accomplished experts in their fields. First, we have Vida Petrovikin, Deputy Director of the National Courts Administration of Lithuania and an international expert of the EU Project Pravo-Justice. Vida, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, dear participants, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear moderator. Can you see my screen properly? Everything is fine?
Yes.
Yes, my presentation, yes?
Yes.
So it's a pleasure to take part in this conference and to share experience in innovative approaches to recruitment, which have been implemented in Lithuania, in the Lithuanian judiciary, and which I may say are effective for, it might be useful for Ukrainian part, also for other states as well. I'm Vida Petrovichina, as the moderator presented me, and over a decade I had the privilege of working with Lithuanian courts and closely contributing to their structural reforms, reorganization efforts, and digital transformation. Today, in the next 15 minutes, I would like to share some of my personal insights on how the effective court branding and communication about the courts could enhance the judiciary's appeal as an employer, and also why the role of effective management is so important in order to be attractive employer for the judiciary. And to start my presentation, I would like to mention that attracting, retaining, and motivating people, especially with top talents, is a constant challenge for any organization. Human resource policies must continue to evolve to address key issues such as limited budgets, maintaining the image or brand of organization, intense competition for specialists, changing expectations of employees, and also the ongoing impact of information and communication technologies. The prevailing challenges vary depending on the specific circumstances in which an organization operates. That's why I would like to share one of the mega trends. The European Commission Competence Center on Foresights, which analyze and summarize megatrends. Megatrend is a significant global long-term change that are visible now and are likely to persist in the future. These trends should be considered when developing human resource policies as well. And I would like to share that the most recent trends for human resource sectors are three ones. First one is digital transformation. Technologies are reshaping job roles that require a number of professional and qualification demands. That's why it's very important to take into account this transformation in judiciaries in order to form perspective and appropriate human resource policy. One more mega trend is new work organization, as the flexible working conditions, motivation strategies, and management system are evolving, and that's why the working with human resource policy is a constant one and should be changing depending, evaluating the changing circumstances. And from my point of view, one more very important thing is purpose-driven work, because employees increasingly seek meaningful engagement and value alignment with their roles. Judiciaries across Europe face challenges in assembling competent teams to assist judges and manage daily court routines, operations. But before going to talk more deeply how the judiciary may become a more interesting employer, I believe it's worth to answer, why do people want to work in judiciary? Today, during the welcoming words, the speaker said about the values why people want to work in courts as well. So I believe that this understanding will lead the organizations to the most appropriate recruitment and retention policies, planning, employment, communication as well, knowing why do people choose courts. So why courts? The surveys made in Lithuania in recent years, and I have seen some in Europe, between other European countries as well, show that people choose to work in courts due to, first of all, its mission. Courts protect people's rights and uphold justice, provide employees with a sense of purpose. Even in crisis, the judiciary remains a pillar of stability and fairness. And we can see when the correlation between the economic growth and the workload of the judiciary. Of course, when economic goes up, the workload of the judiciary is not that high. But when the economy goes down, there are some crises within society, the workload of courts will increase, as people will come to court to protect their rights, to protect their economic welfare interests, social interests. That's why to talk and to feel the mission of the courts and purpose of it is so important. To ensure public trust and respect, the judiciary independence and impartiality garner public respect, which in turn motivates employees to work and to join the judiciary. Very important principle and of judiciary is professionalism and high ethical standards. Judges and their teams uphold high professional and ethical standards, and that's why people want to work within such colleagues. Stability and job security is one more guarantee for people working in judiciary, as courts are one of the three government powers. The judiciary offers long-term stability and security, minimizing the risk of economic downturns affecting employment. The state also in some countries provides special employment guarantees and benefits for those who work in courts. So why employer brand? Because when organizations compete for talent and employees' motivation is very low, employer branding becomes a critical component of recruitment strategy. The judiciary must leverage its strength, I have mentioned in the previous slide, and actively communicate its advantages as an employer. How to work with this communication? The proper employer communication plan is highly recommended. And in this communication plan, it's highly recommended to position the judiciary as an attractive workplace through strategic communication messages. And I would like to suggest the strategic communication approach should include such few principles. First of all is positive messaging. The judiciary should highlight itself as a stable and rewarding career choice. Avoid focusing solely on challenges such as funding shortages or workload pressures, which may discourage potential candidates. If candidates hear that people working in courts are tired, the workload is high, salaries are low, corruption and all the negative atmosphere, motivation will be very low. Even when there is a crisis in court communication, for instance, some accident within the judiciary, corruption scandal, and so on, it is recommended to return back to positive employer communication. One more suggestion, proactive outreach. Actively promote job opportunities through targeted communication channels. The frequency of messaging should be balanced, not too frequent, yet not too infrequent. Because when there is a common feeling that there are no people working in judiciary, so for a new entrant, it's quite to invite the new candidates is quite difficult. So that's why, well, the communication about it should be also balanced. And also, all communication should be audience specified. The messages should be tailored for different target groups for maximum impact to be reached. And a few more aspects of strategic message is that effective communication about court as an employer should be based on a value-driven approach. The judiciary should emphasize its mission, commitment to strong moral values and ethical standards, and emphasize its importance during even in time of crisis, because people should feel that they are safe coming to courts, joining the judiciary, and also be delivering this very valuable results for the general public and for the state as well. And all level involvement. I think this point is really important for all judiciaries within the world, that all representatives from judiciary at all levels should be engaged in this procedure. Self-government bodies, court presidents, judges, and staff should promote career opportunities and workplace benefits. Recruitment should not be seen as the sole responsibility of HR people. Rather, every judicial member serves as a public representative. Judges, court officials, and staff could actively contribute to attracting new talent by sharing their experience and highlighting the judiciary's strength. Messages from those within the system carry credibility and can serve as powerful invitation for prospective employees to join the judiciary. Some practical examples. How judiciary can adopt various social outreach strategies to strengthen its recruitment efforts. An hour with a judge and social media. Maybe it's worth to organize online meetings with students, NGOs, and publics to discuss judiciary careers, excluding case discussion, because the discussion should be focused for the career perspectives within judiciary. The platform on which it might be done should align with national social media preferences. In Lithuania, the LinkedIn profile prevails, but it depends on the state. One more initiative, judges as influencers or ambassadors. Empower judges to serve as public figures advocating for careers in the judiciary. A day with a judge. It's a long-term project in Lithuanian courts when students come to court to spend a week working daily with a judge and seeing its daily work. And after there are competition when a student creates a short movie sharing his or her views how the daily work of a judge looks like. So it's a really good initiative and popular between students. And after this initiative, some students choose to come to join the Judicial Staff Corps and become a member of Judiciary. So maybe it's also worth to consider about this idea. Influencer or other public person spending a day in a court may also be an aspiring initiative for strengthening the court as an employer image. People to people. I like this phrase because judges engaging in public festival to discuss about judicial career questions is a very good form of public communication. Here in the slide, you can see in the top picture, one of the Lithuanian judges participated in the festival as well. We have heard from the Poland experience that judiciary has used this strategy for informing people on the importance of judiciary independence during the rule of law crisis. So it's worth to consider this format to use for the inviting people to join to the judiciary corps. Judicial participating in student career day festivals is quite common practice among states. Open court days, one more initiative which is worth to consider because public engagement events will demystify court operations and career opportunities, and also it's a good format to share information about possibilities in court. Volunteers in court, it's very often Europe states practice, and there's such practice also in Lithuania. When volunteers come to course, they serve for a while, communicate with visitors, court visitors, with court staff, share their information, and afterwards we join the judiciary as an employees. So maybe it's worth to consider this practice in your country as well. And judges in schools, so promoting legal education in schools to inform young people about the judiciary's role, counter misconceptions from media sources is really important. And a few small tips to consider is that judiciary should take part in legal education. As it's seen from the practice that education does not pay attention on informing on how courts operate. Therefore, the public forms their opinion from public source. That's why it's very important to educate people what the court does and how the court operates. One more thing, more transparent data, open data from the court's activities will strengthen the interest from the younger people, from employees to come to join the courts working, and also will enhance the transparency of the court's activities. For instance, even publishing such information as salaries, working conditions, number of vacant positions will just give them some experience, with knowledge about the system, and then maybe they will decide to join judiciary corps as well. What is more, nowadays people, they like to receive information, so open court strategy will help the judiciary to invite people to get to know courts and the activities more, and maybe to join the judicial staff as well. And one last topic from this part will be that there are many reforms ongoing in Ukraine, and there are much information about this. So proactive communication about judicial reform is essentially to mitigate fear and uncertainty among employees and candidates. Leaders at all levels, from top management to HR personnel, should actively communicate changes and their impacts, reinforcing the judiciary's role as a facilitator of reforms and a stable employer. So when the reforms are going, people do not feel secure, so it's highly recommended to talk judiciary themselves about the reforms and what effect of it will be. And my last stop on how the judiciary may improve its HR policy, and that when the personnel shortages arises, effective management becomes a key factor in recruitment and retention strategies. The judiciary, self-government institutions, big courts, should develop vision and strategic planning documents to provide employees and candidates with clear insights into the judiciary's long-term direction and career perspectives. This will create security and stability. One more idea to consider is optimization and review of functions. According to CPA data, Ukraine employs a higher number of non-judicial staff. During crisis, it's crucial to assess whether this level of staffing is necessary. There was some practice in Lithuania to transfer some functions from courts to notaries. Delegating non-essential court functions to other institutions could help streamline operations and adjust personnel needs accordingly. During welcoming words, we were mentioned that digitalization of judiciary is also one of the key trend of Ukrainian judiciary. So I suggest to continue and to utilize digitalization, automatization, and AI for judiciary activities. As CPA European Commission of Efficiency data indicates that information technology usage in the judiciary is below the European average. So increasing the adoption of digital tools can enhance efficiency, reduce personnel needs, and streamline HR planning for future. And a few practical suggestions to consider: shared resources and centralization of functions. In the absence of sufficient financial resources, centralizing administrative functions and sharing services such as accounting, infrastructure management, IT support can help optimize court operations and while reducing costs. Outsourcing services, maybe it's worth to consider outsource non-core services to improve the court's working efficiency. And from the practice, we see that the judiciary shall look for the ways how to make the working conditions more flexible. Remote working is one of the prevailing trend. Especially it is very useful when there is a salary difference between big cities, urban areas, and rural areas. So, for instance, in Lithuania, it's quite popular to work from smaller cities in courts, which are located in the bigger ones. So maybe this practice might be used in your country as well. And flexible employment procedures, temporary contracts, lower entry requirements, simplify the hiring processes for temporary employment may also be useful for your country. And the last point, communication and change management, I have already mentioned before a bit. So there's a direction, and a modern and proactive human resource strategy is really essential for the judiciary to attract and retain top talent. And by enhancing employee branding, increasing transparency, engaging in public education, and embracing digital transformation, the judiciary can strengthen its workforce and maintain public trust, but it takes time and efforts. So long-term success will depend on the judiciary's ability to adapt to the emergent trends while maintaining its core values such as independence, integrity, and professionalism. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Vida. A takeaway that I struggled with for over 40 years and that you are working on is positive, effective communication with a value-driven approach. I think we all would agree that communication is indeed a very difficult task to administer appropriately, and I applaud your efforts in this area and other areas that you presented on. Thank you, Vida. Next, we
Thank
have
you.
Ebony Caldwell, the Assistant State Court Administrator for the Maryland Judiciary Human Resources Division, who serves approximately 4,600 employees. Again, you will find her bio and all the other bios in your materials. Ebony?
Thank you, Pam. Thank you for having us here today. I truly appreciate it. I'll share my screen. So again, thank you all for having us here. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. It's a great opportunity to discuss some practical implementations that we have done at the Maryland Judiciary here in the United States. These are some practical things that we were able to facilitate here at the Judiciary, and hopefully there's something, a piece of this that you can take away. So I'll get started. So Maryland Judiciary, our vacancy rate in July 1st, 2023, we started a little bit over under 6%, or a little bit over 6%, excuse me. And our vacancy rate started to climb. Obviously, you can see here up to about 7% back in September of 2023. So when we saw that our vacancy rate was continuing to increase, very similar to you, we wanted to figure out a plan or strategy of what we could do to decrease our vacancy rate and ultimately retain our employees. So we developed a strategy here at the Judiciary. And first, which I think is very comparable to you, we identified the problems and analyzed. There's so many problems that when it comes to recruitment challenges, you have to kind of take it piece by piece rather than taking in the whole pie, so to speak, or the whole concerns. You realize that there's a low vacancy rate or a manager is not retaining their employees. And so really we spent a lot of time just first identifying our problems. Where were the areas of concern? Were there recruitment and hiring challenges with management? Were managers struggling with retaining their employees? And then looking at the turnover. Where is this position? For example, we'll use the position of a judiciary clerk, which is a lower level clerk within the court. How many times is this position becoming vacant, and how much are we spending really realistically to fill that position? So those were some of the things that we identified. And then lastly, looking at the minimum qualifications for positions and wondering, was there some flexibility in our minimum qualifications? Could we offer a substitution clause, such as your experience rather than your education in some positions? Or was there something else that we could offer to reduce our minimum qualifications to allow more candidates to come into the judiciary? And then lastly, as Vida mentioned as well, looking at our flexible work options. That is very key in this job market, and with individuals that are looking for positions, they want to know what their flexible work options are. So we identified that. We looked at our policy regarding telework or alternative work schedules where an employee can work 4 days a week, 4 10-hour shifts, and then be off on a Friday. So we looked at some of those flexible work options. The next thing that we did, once analyzing that data, we had to develop our strategy, because again, you can't take it all all at the same time, because it's so much when your vacancy rate is truly increasing, and you're seeing this change happen. So we sat down with our government relations and public affairs, and developed a social media and social network strategy. And what does that look like? And one thing that Vida mentioned that I will hone in on a little bit more is developing a consistent social media strategy. It's very great to have LinkedIn, or if you use LinkedIn, which is a source that we have, or Facebook, or any social media source, you have to have a consistent social media strategy approach. And so that consisted a little bit of content sharing initiatives. So what that means is we have identified recruiters or talent acquisition partners, that's what we call them, and they will post a job vacancy, and then many of us or others will then share that vacancy. So that creates that awareness, which is key for when you're trying to recruit. When multiple people see that position, well, I'll just continue to use the position, judiciary clerk, is open, then it starts to get a little bit more stamina, and individuals are wanting to seek, what should I do to apply to that position? So that content sharing and having someone repost and reshare is very vital, and we still do that to this day. And then obviously we have an applicant tracking system, which is electronic, and so we're able to post our job opportunities there on our applicant system. And so that's really key, and that's helpful. We're able to make it a hot job versus maybe not so much, but again, it just creates that traction. And then looking at prospective candidates, going out on social media, and actually with our recruitment team or talent acquisition, that's what we call them here, we have them contact individuals that they may see on LinkedIn or on social media platforms and say, hey, you may be good for this position. Why don't you consider applying? And having that outreach is so important, because you start to create that network. Another thing that we do on our social media is highlighting an employee of the week, where we identify individuals that have worked with the judiciary, whether it's been a month or it's been years, and we highlight them on social media, just again showing that community, showing that networking strategy. And it allows for those who are seeking employment to see that this individual has been able to be with the judiciary, stand the test of time, whatever that may be, and we highlight that individual on our social media. Advertisement. One thing that we decided to do was to find out where we could have free sources for advertising. So there's many different free sources, or working with your network, and that was something that we were able to do. So we have Indeed, and we do have a subscription with Indeed, but we also are able to have some free advertisement through Indeed. And then local universities and community colleges, again, depending on the position, it is important to be able to make those connections, and even just sending a job announcement, it goes a long way. And then lastly, professional organizations. So organizations that you may be a part of, such as this organization, just ensuring that they receive the job announcements. And what we've done is made that consistent and cyclical, really, where individuals know that they're going to hear from us regarding our job opportunities. Some other things that we did are internal communications. So again, I said posting hot jobs through our applicant tracking system. So individuals know that this is a job that you should apply, that it's electronic, and that application system is electronic. We also send monthly announcements out just to our internal judiciary, where everyone here knows what positions are open. Not everyone goes to our applicant tracking system that's an employee. So then we're creating that opportunity, and then it allows employees to then send that to their network. So that's free advertisement, essentially, if you think about it, because you're using your internal network to then send out job announcements to externals. And then lastly, our external outreaches. We've had some network events that have been here at the judiciary and also career fairs. We've hosted numerous career fairs. I would say we host one at least once a year here on site, where we invite the public, open our doors here at the administrative office of the courts. And we have been very successful in those career fairs. And it just allows for that networking opportunity. And it has been really vital in filling our positions. So where are we now? Our vacancy rate it's under 5%. And so we have done a really good job with being consistent. And I think if there's any message that I could take away from here or that you could take away, it's that consistent strategy of making sure that you're continuously advertising positions, ensuring that individuals externally and internally know about opportunities through the judiciary. So some strategies just that I wanted to share. Again, I shared a couple that we have done, but a targeted recruitment approach. You will not be able to fill every position in one single day, but considering what positions are needed and how to engage with those individuals that you may be looking to seek for that type of position. Engaging community leaders or another source that may be vital to getting the word out about positions. A lot of times with recruitment or talent acquisition, it is just that word of mouth. The external job boards to advertise, the use of social media. Another thing that you could do is text messaging, the SMS messaging. So having a text messaging group that is sent out through applicants, through applications, so potential candidates can know about opportunities. Another suggestion or for consideration is having a recruitment center somewhere where those applicants can go to apply for positions would be very vital and helpful, because maybe someone does not have the resources to be able to do an online application. But if there is a centralized hub where individuals could come in and apply for a job, that may be helpful as well. And then lastly, offering on-the-job training through job announcements. I think sometimes at the judiciary, people may not want to apply for the job because it's the judiciary. And so this is another consideration of maybe just stating on the job announcement, on the job training, on the job announcement. And then so finally, again, there's a lot to take in when you're looking at how to recruit, when you're going through recruitment challenges. So just some key points to consider. Looking at those key positions, what positions do you need to fill? What is a necessity? Looking at identifying free job boards, and then developing that consistent strategy. Without a consistent strategy using technology, you will not get the applicants that you're looking for. But the more consistent that you are, the better that it will be with your applicant pool and then filling those vacancies. And then lastly, contacting your justice partners or other organizations to assist with the recruitment initiatives. We're all a community in this together, and you would be surprised how much your community can help with getting positions filled. So those are just some key points. I'm so thankful that I've had this moment to share this information with you all. If you need anything, we are here. Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ebony. It's interesting that your Human Resources Department brought together other judiciary divisions and community leaders and technology to assist with brainstorming and communication and these other strategies you mentioned to help fulfill the vacancy issues. Usually, sometimes we work in silos, and so it's nice to hear that you brought outside people in to help you as well. That's a very good takeaway.
Thank you.
Our next session, retention strategies for long-term success and best practices for professional development and career growth. Evaluating the quality of work as a way of motivation and strategies to improve job satisfaction and to reduce turnover. We have 3 speakers for this segment, and we will start with Teresa Yo, who is the Senior Director of Corporate Services in all of the Singapore courts. She serves approximately 1,200 officers. Teresa, it's all yours.
Thank you, Pam, and thank you, IACA, for inviting the Singapore courts to share with you a little bit of what we do. So just give me a few minutes for me to put up my slides. Before I start, I thought I should actually share with everyone a little bit of context of the Singapore judiciary. If you don't know much about Singapore, we do have 3 branches of government, and there is separation of powers between the judiciary and the legislature and the cabinet. And the judiciary is one of the 3 constitutional pillars of the government, and head of the judiciary is, of course, the Chief Justice. So the Singapore judiciary, when you talk about the Singapore courts, it actually comprises of 3 types of courts. It's the Supreme Court, which is the highest court, of the land. The state courts, and our lower tier courts will be the state courts and the family justice courts, where all family-related jurisdictions rest. Okay, and of course, the common function of all these 3 courts is to administer justice to the people of Singapore. So very quickly, I thought I should share, I think just now Pam spoke about the fact that we are about 1,200 strong, of which 75% are actually court administrators. And these numbers exclude some of our outsourced colleagues who are, for example, our cleaners are outsourced, our security officers, our facilities management are outsourced. So this number is purely just supporting administrators, supporting the courts. And of course, the rest will be our judicial service officers and our judges. So with context, I thought I would then share with you some of the strategies that we have in place. First and foremost, we feel that a strong corporate culture is actually very important for the courts. And when we talk about corporate culture, we talk about engendering trust and having respect for each other, and open comms and sharing. So that will also entail, for example, our chief executive conducting viewpoints every month. In fact, out of the 900 court administrators, every one of us meet the chief executive in a kind of an intimate dialogue session every month, where we actually give feedback, where we also sometimes air grievances so that some of these can be addressed, or misunderstanding can be addressed, and where there are issues to be taken, action can be taken almost immediately. Teamwork and I think building teamwork and partnership is important so that people feel a sense of belonging. So we do that in a lot of activities that we organized, and of course, and that also goes with empowerment and taking ownership of our work. So a strong service culture, a strong corporate culture is very important for us to actually motivate our staff. And one of those things that is important is having a common shared vision. So having everyone embrace a common vision in the courts is important. And in the last few years, we have come together to kind of update and review our vision. And we have come up with a vision which is a trusted judiciary ready for tomorrow. And most importantly, it's important that we put in place core values and we bring on board people who can embrace these core values. And we use abbreviation FAIR, F-A-I-R, and F stands for fairness, A for accessibility, integrity, and respect. And based on these core values that guide us in how we interact with each other and how we interact with our court users as well. In fact, we find that our officers are motivated to stay if they can identify with our common vision, mission, and our set of values. In fact, we conduct employee engagement surveys quite regularly, and the results have shown that many of our officers feel proud to be part of an organization if they can value add to our organization's greater purpose, and they feel that they're energized by purposeful kind of work. I think just now earlier, Vida, I think, talked about the new trend. The new trend is having purpose-driven work. And we feel that is actually very true in the Singapore courts. Okay, but that set aside, whilst we actually come together for a common vision and a set of values, we also understand that the three courts have a different set of purposes. So that on a day-to-day basis, while the vision sets up the aspiration of the judiciary, the mission of each of the courts is quite different. That means what we do on a day-to-day basis. So for example, the family justice mission is to make justice accessible to families and youth. So the people who come in have a different set of mission, although we all share a common vision and a common set of values in our DNA. Okay, so that's actually we feel is an important retention strategy to ensure that everyone understands and embrace a common vision, mission, and a set of values. Now, the next strategy that's quite important for us in the courts is really having a fair and competitive remuneration package. And it's not just about a salary, but it's also a bundle of benefits. We are part of the public service. Our administrators are part of public service, although our judges are appointed under the Constitution, they are not. But as court administrators, we are part of the wider public service, which is one of the biggest employers in Singapore. Singapore has a population of 6 million, and public service, there are about 152,000 officers in public service. So as part of public service officer, we strive to offer a competitive wage, meaning that we keep pace with the market, but we are clear that we cannot be market leader, but we pay a competitive package. And as part of our package, there are some components of our pay that actually varies with how the country performs economically, and is also linked to performance. So there is a very strong linkage between pay and performance. So I'll just give an example. So we are given a monthly salary. So that's a monthly component. But we do have yearly components like what I've listed here, 13-month, an annual variable component, and a special variable payment. And these components are paid out at the end of each year, and it takes into consideration the prevailing national economic performance. So if the country does not do well, we won't get that. If the country do well, then we will get a certain amount of payment. And the last component is really performance bonus, which is very linked to our performance. But beyond salary is not everything. We actually also have quite good leave benefits. It recognizes that officers have different needs at different stages of their lives. So we have, other than leave, and just give me a moment. So we have different types of leave other than vacation leave. We have vacation leave. We have, of course, maternity leave, marriage leave, parent care leave, different types of leave, and of course, we have paid sick leave and hospitalization leave, which is quite extensive for a public officer. And as our remuneration also is our medical benefits, we give each officer and their dependents patient medical expenses, but of course we do have each year. But in terms of each patient, there's a certain contribution to a special account where the staff will then tap the account to buy an insurance, a very effective insurance plan for their hospital stay. Right. In addition to that, there are dental benefits as well as flexi-grow benefits, which is really given out for officers to use for health screening, because we feel that a healthy and fit officer will actually mean that they will stay longer with us as well. Okay, so other than a competitive and a fair remuneration package, the other part of retention for us is really flexible work arrangements. Okay, so the public service take the lead in adopting the national standard for some of these work arrangements. So that involves telecommuting. So telecommuting is really the hybrid work. We call it a hybrid work arrangement because what we do is that when the jobs allow us to work from home, we have adopted the hybrid work arrangement of working 3 days on site and 2 days from home. We telecommute 2 days from home. For most of the jobs allow us to telecommute, but it's always subject to exigencies of service. So if, for example, if I'm a court officer and the court hearing is in person, it's a whole week, yeah, then too bad, I come to work every day. But if some of the hearings are by Zoom, or that there are no hearings, then we do allow officers to then telecommute 2 days from home. The other type of flexi work arrangement is what called staggered work hours. Our working hours per week is about 42 hours working a week. We normally start at 8:30. We finish about 6 o'clock. Okay, but we recognize that there are some parents who need to send their children to school, or they want to avoid peak transport arrangements or peak transport systems. They actually are asked to stagger their time. They can start either earlier or later, between 7 to 9:30. But of course, they have to work a bit later because hours remain unchanged. So for us, it's flexi time or flex time. The other type of flexible work arrangement is time arrangements, where people feel that they only want to work time because for some different stages of their life, maybe they've just given birth, they want to spend time with the baby, or at some point they want to do they don't want to take a sabbatical and they want to go and take some courses. So they work part-time, and that is actually allowed as well. So this allows us to accommodate the different needs of our officers to different stages of their life. So flexible work arrangements is actually important and effective retention strategy for us. Okay. Now, retirement and re-employment. We welcome retired officers, and we are very transparent about it. Singapore has an aging population, and we also have declining population growth. So it is we are working with a very small base. Yeah. So we are quite clear. In fact, the public service is quite clear that because we're the biggest employer, we should not be monopolizing many of the accounts out there, and we should leave sufficient numbers for the private sector. So what we do is that we normally do not get increase in headcount so easily. Headcounts are only given if we embark on totally new initiatives on a very sustainable or very sustained and long-term basis. But if not, we do more with whatever we have, and we kind of optimize and we upgrade the competencies of officers, and we kind of allow them to work as long as they could. So re-employment allows our officers to stay economically productive and fully engaged in their golden years. Our current retirement age is 63, and we actually encourage people who retire to be re-employed. So when they're re-employed, although they go back to a contract basis, there is no cut in pay as long as their responsibilities remain the same, and there's no impact on benefits and also the variable yearly payments as well. Okay, so we will re-employ them from their retirement age to what we call the re-employment age. So currently the retirement age is 63, we re-employ them to 68. Okay, but starting from this year, nationally, we're increasing the retirement age next year, but the public service has decided to take the lead. The judiciary is no exception. The Singapore court's no exception. Our retirement age from this year will be now from 64, and we will re-employ our officers to the age of 69. Now, beyond that, from 64 to 69, we actually engage them on long-term contracts or on a 3+2, 3-year and a 2-year contract. Beyond 69, if our officers remain fit for employment, we employ them on a year-to-year basis subject to medical fitness. And this is important because I think the experience is also valuable as well. Okay, but we have to balance it, of course, with our succession planning needs as well, because we also need to inject some fresh blood in whilst we want to also allow officers to work as long as they could. Okay, so this retirement and re-employment policy is a very transparent one, and we also prepare our officers way before, at least a year before they retire, so that they know our plans for them and they can plan for their own, for the next chapter of their life as well. Now, performance management, I mentioned earlier on that there is strong link to performance and our pay as well. Okay, but what is important for performance management for us is that every officer must have the ability, we believe that every officer has the talent and ability that can be developed to the fullest, and they should be given an opportunity to maximize that. And when they're able to make the best contributions, we will derive maximum benefits. So in terms of some of the principles we've put in is that it's important for us to ensure there's timely feedback. We believe in the principle of no surprises, and that when we do assessment, it's also not just to link to reward, but it's also for development. And in order for that system to gain credibility, it must also be fair as well. So we believe that performance management is an ongoing process. There's a mid-year check-in, and at the end of year, there is a formal appraisal where officers actually also appraise themselves, and there is a face-to-face appraisal. And what they are appraised on is, firstly, achievement of their work targets or their work plan. And they also assess on how they have achieved their work plan in terms of assessment of 2 sets of competencies. So we have a competency kind of driven growth, where we believe that there are 2 components of this. One is in achieving our work plan, what kind of core competencies have we demonstrated in achieving that work plan? And these core competencies are critical behavior that is expected for all of us who work in the judiciary, regardless of the job families. And then the other set of competencies are functional competencies that are job specific. That means these are competencies that is peculiar to each job family. So the functional competencies of an HR officer, for example, may differ from the functional competency of a finance officer or an officer doing procurement or a court officer. Okay, although all of us are court administrators. Okay, but what is common is the core competencies. These set of competencies are important, whether in doing our job, we think clearly and we make sound judgment, whether we serve with the heart. I think that's quite important. And whether we work effectively to serve our citizens and our court users. And also whether we keep learning, and we keep improving and innovating, which is quite important. So that's actually part of our appraisal process as well. In addition to functional competency. So what I'm showing is just an example of a set of competencies that we have put in place for our communications executives. The next retention strategy for us is really about training and development. Training and development is very important for us. Every new officer who joins has to go through a compulsory induction program, which is about 3 days. And what is important is that for me as a head of HR, I actually share an overview, or I share really the vision, mission, and the core values of the Singapore courts. And we also get every director from every division across the 3 courts to share what they do, so that everyone knows what the courts do, what the 3 courts do, and what each division in 3 courts do. We do have signature court events that are very critical in our calendar. Every officer have to attend. We start off with the biggest event, that's opening of a legal year, where our Chief Justice, together with the Attorney General and the President of the Law SOC, it is an event where they really take stock of what happened the previous year and outline what's coming in next year, and they pledge to administer justice to the people of Singapore fairly and equitably as well. So the opening of legal year, respective courts also have their work plan each year. Each year, we also take all the officers out of each court, away from the court, to do a corporate retreat where we do team building, because that's quite important for bonding purposes, so that we all can work for a common set of vision and mission. Each officer is expected to put aside 90 hours of training a year as the minimum, and that includes e-learning of 4 hours every month. Okay, we set aside, we ring-fence a budget for each officer. Currently, it is at 2,000. We kind of review it every few years. Some amount is set aside for corporate events, but 1,500 is then managed by the officer themselves. They decide what kind of training is important to them, because they're made aware of what functional competencies are important for them to do their job effectively. And if there is a lack, or if there is if they are not proficient in the competencies, they're expected to then plan for their own training and development. And this budget excludes the budget that's set aside for leadership programs and some of the corporate training programs that's very important for us. So, for example, quite a number of officers are trained for AED or first aid training, and that's quite important. And that's inside this budget. And these are some of our bespoke company programs, or some of the programs that we come up with that we feel that it's important for all our officers through would be mindfulness, for example, or dealing with mental stress. There's some programs that I feel important. Or, for example, we conduct workshops on anti-harassment. So this budget excludes those programs. So we do ring-fence quite a substantial amount of a budget each year for training and development, because it is very important. It's all about upgrading competencies for all our officers. And so this is a platform where we actually, all officers actually have to subscribe to an app. And this app is actually run by our Civil Service College, and a lot of our training programs on this app. And this is where they do e-learning as well. And there's also a space where we actually also contextualize some of the training that is actually appropriate for the judiciary, where they can do learning at their own time and their own target. We also have a One Talent Gateway, which is an AI-enabled whole of government talent marketplace, where there's information on development opportunities, on learning interventions. We have also scholarships. So other than that, earlier training budget, each year we set aside about $500,000 for us to sponsor officers for more formal programs. So, for example, if I am a general degree holder and I would like to, because I work in the courts, I want to do a law degree and you don't have a law degree, or I do a second degree, for example, or I want to do a master's. Okay, if I am a psychologist working in a court, in a family justice court, we do have a pool of counselors and psychologists. They can apply for sponsorship to study for a master's program. But of course, what we do is, in order for us to have a return of investment, we actually bond them as well. But the scholarship and sponsorship scheme is quite important, I think, for us to upgrade the competencies for our court administrators.
Teresa, I'm going to have to cut you off.
I'm going to quickly wrap up. So the other thing is on really to evaluate legal leadership proficiency, because if our middle managers are effective, it does contribute to the retention strategies as well. So we do 360 feedback for all our middle level managers and senior managers to enable interventions. Okay. Career development for us is important. So what we do is we do have a very open policy. Just give me another 5 minutes, Pam, I'll wrap it up. Yeah. So we do share vacancies throughout the judiciary. And because we are part of a wider public service landscape, we are actually open for our officers to go and apply for jobs in the public service in other agencies as well, because we recognize there's a long runway between when they join us and when they retire. And we recognize the service when they actually move around as well. And we also bet on small work exposures or on-the-job training in other agencies. We call it STIP and gig. They can actually do short-term gigs and encourage, because that to us is an important retention strategy, because at the end of the day, when they take these opportunities, we still retain them in the organization. Okay. But I will talk about this actually employee recognition and well-being. I think awards acknowledging and celebrating staff contribution is important if we want to motivate them and encourage them to remain with the organization. We do have a Be Safe, Be Well framework where we really focus on creating a safe and well environment. So beyond the physical safety and security that we feel is important, we also have various measures that put in place, like health checks. We have staff gym we have a gym in every court, and we have a staff appreciation week in March each day. We celebrate the birthdays of all our officers by giving them a birthday card and a token. And also every festival, we are a multiracial organization. At every festival, we do have a celebration, and we will have each month, we have a fitness Friday and a family Friday where they are given a bit of time off. They are released a bit early to spend time on that. And of course, we have put in place some policies which are very close to our hearts about anti-harassment, and we do have also a wellness program, because we have worked with a vendor to put in place a wellness hotline that our officers, to support our officers' well-being, they can call the hotline anytime. It's 24/7 for phone counseling as well as face-to-face counseling. And they can provide important information on articles. The last bit is really on staff and is on staff engagement. I think staff engagement is very important for us. So we have a full year of calendar activities where we celebrate major festivals, we celebrate major events, we bring the kids day, we have viewpoint sessions and so on to actually ensure that our staff stay engaged with the organization, including involving them in committee works to inculcate a sense of belonging. Okay, we do regular employee engagement survey every 2 years to feel the pulse of our employees in terms of assessing the level of employee engagement, where we measure leadership effectiveness. We also ask them whether they think they're staying in the long term and whether why, and if they are not, why, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And
Okay,
of course,
Teresa,
last but not least, is
Teresa.
about staying connected. And we actually have an intranet where we share information on a very regular basis. I think that's the last bit. Thank you very
great.
much. Yeah. And thank you for helping me to keep time, Pam.
I'm sorry, Teresa. We just got a little delayed.
No problems, no problems. Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay,
among
yeah.
all the other initiatives you presented, having a strong leadership culture, garnering trust, respect, and fairness for all employees, regardless of their position, I think are values that should be embraced by all of us. You know, it's hard to get leadership to look up and down rather than just, you know, at one level. So that's wonderful that you do that. So next we have Bogdan Krilevenki, the Chief of Staff of the High Anti-Corruption Court of Ukraine. Again, his bio is in your materials, and I'll give it to Bogdan.
Thank you, President Harris. So nice to see you all, and former President, Dr. Professor Luis Maria Palma, and all of my colleagues, distinguished guests. Thank you, Teresa, for very interesting presentation. I, on behalf of some participants, would like to ask you to share the presentation to learn more carefully all your initiative and activities, what you've done. I will continue in Ukrainian language. So please, who need translation from Ukrainian into English, switch. Отже, дякую дуже, колеги, за...
Thank you so much, dear colleagues, for extremely interesting presentations. There are a lot of things we can embrace and we can take into account and use in our activity in the work of court administrators. It goes without saying that I'd like to add to what Olga Bulka said. I hope you can see my presentation now. Yes. I hope that yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. So to what we heard already from Olga and to what we heard from the colleagues about the importance of the work of court administrators, the main task here is to add a couple of points and highlight some peculiarities pertinent to Ukrainian reality. As we all know, and as it was mentioned already, courts and judges and court staff members, the judicial self-governance bodies and governance bodies, whoever considers that he or she is a part of the judiciary in Ukraine, they might say that the topic of today's meeting and the topic of today's webinar on the HR management policies at the times of crisis in the Ukrainian context means that crisis in Ukraine is a permanent state. And it's hard to say what our life had been like before the crisis. First, we had COVID and pandemic, then full-scale Russian invasion, and thousands of judges and court staff members in different parts of Ukraine every day learned to work under extremely challenging and unthinkable conditions and circumstances, and how to retain people, how to keep them motivated, to come to work every day and deliver and perform. Indeed, that is a big task for all court presidents, for all chiefs of staff, for all heads of structural units, for everyone. 27 plus over 30,000 people that every day come to work and do their duties. So this topic is extremely relevant, and a chance to hear from colleagues from the US, Lithuania, Singapore, to find out how it should have been like, what it should have been like, how it should be developed, and how it works in developed democracies. It's important for us, and it gives us hope that we'll have it like that too. The key point is that it is indeed in our hands. And here I'd like to speak about more practical things. First and foremost, as far as work with people is concerned, in my opinion, work with people, it's the most challenging element of the work. I don't want to underestimate any professions, but I'm deeply convinced that working with people is the requirement for the most qualified and most competent staff in court, among court staff, not only in the court, but in any field. When you work with people, that is the biggest challenge, because all people are different. All people have their own expectations and vision and perception of the situation, with different backgrounds, with different experiences and level of knowledge. For any manager, whether it's head of the division or whether it's chief of staff of the court, the question of building efficient interaction is a question of daily work. Our topic, the topic of our webinar, is about preventing or strengthening our team in times of crisis. In my conviction, the best training and the best background for work in crisis is daily work with the staff to avoid such crisis. Sure, in Ukraine, we work under extremely challenging conditions, the challenges of the full-scale invasion, and our foreign colleagues and participants and attendees from abroad. We sincerely wish you to never find out what it's like to wake up at nights from explosions and to go during the day and work at a place where you don't have electricity and where you have interruptions in basic facilities. However, daily, as thousands of court staff members in Ukraine, they find strength and they help administer justice that is administered by judges. However, it was not me who said this, but it is experts who are well conversed in mental health and supporting people in challenges. The longest and the most efficient work is delivered not by the person who believes that it will be soon over, and it will not be done by someone who believes that someday it will be over, but the best and the most efficient and most resilient people are the people who continue working efficiently every day, irrespective of the fact what crisis and what circumstances they might be working in. From my own experience and from my practical elements of the arrangement of the work of the staff of the High Anti-Corruption Court, and from what I have been able to learn, I'd like to suggest key priorities to consistent development of the staff that we work with every day in our organizations. Somehow or other, it's related to what Teresa said in her presentation. It's development, career development, better training and skills throughout the career. We mustn't be complacent, and we mustn't just be okay with basic courses. We must ensure that we have lifelong learning and we find development opportunities, we upskill them, we deepen their knowledge in all fields and areas. The second point is support of human potential. It's identifying the human needs. I'll mention it in the next slide, what tools we suggest to use in this direction. The support of human potential is what matters. We must never stop at what we have achieved, and we must be ongoing. We must exert ongoing efforts to make sure that we have further development. As far as recruitment, new people, selection, etc., the recruitment and onboarding of the staff is a crucial priority to make sure that there is less stress for a person and that the person becomes a part of the team stress-free and smoothly. It's the task of the chief of staff, it's the task of the people who onboard the newcomers, it's the task for HR management. And in order for the new professionals to be able to, as soon as possible, deliver efficiently and for them not to spend too much time on the onboarding.
What is also important is to have some favorable environment, working environment, and facilitating a proper interaction between colleagues. Having comfortable work conditions is one of key components of performance and efficiency at work. Besides, when interacting well among themselves, people at work understand what their ultimate goal is and what the organization operates for. Now, yet another important factor is having well-established and sustainable feedback system in place. So this is all about communication, about horizontal communication, about vertical communication. So it is important to make sure that peers give feedbacks to each other if necessary, but also not less important is having this vertical communication from subordinates to line managers and vice versa. It is crucial to measure staff satisfaction as well. Satisfaction with various things, starting from remuneration and up to work conditions, namely proper equipment of workplace, for instance, and so on. The mere fact of asking questions to people is a positive thing because when people are asked questions, they feel like they are taken care of, they feel that their opinion matters, they feel valued. I heard once very important, very interesting thought at a conference that I attended. If somebody wants to have employees who are really interested in performing, who are not just somebody who comes to cope with their duties from A to Z and then to leave without even thinking of what they are doing. It is of crucial importance to give to people this feeling that they are important, that they belong, and that they are part of something bigger. Now, speaking of needs and their implementation, I think Theresa mentioned it in her presentation when she was talking about addressing people's needs, but also taking efforts to support their motivation and involvement with what they are doing. And at the end, I cannot but mention remuneration, salaries, in other words. This is something fundamental. This is something which people work for, and of course, remuneration should be at least decent. Now, speaking of practical tools. It is very important to talk to people, to interact with people in order to know what they are strengths and what they are the best in. That is why various thematic surveys, interviews, individual interviews aimed at identifying the capacity of the personnel as a whole, but also of each member of a team are very important. It is recommended to make briefings, to hold briefings so that people are aware of what is happening in the organization and with the organization. It is important to have formalized tasks and goals in place. Now, coming back to individual performance, individual development plans allow having best from having the best from each employee and focusing on the on polishing their strengths and addressing some gaps in their knowledge or skills. It is very helpful to have employees' portfolio in place in order to be able, yet again, to know what they are the best in. And again, we come back to communication, preferably offline communication. That is why regular meetings, even if we are talking about online meetings, but what I'm saying is that it's important to meet face to face or at least face to screen is also very helpful. I will stop here and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Bogdan. You know, we can't even imagine what you and your colleagues are going through. But we've heard communication throughout these presentation, and you mentioned horizontal and vertical communication, a favorable atmosphere, receiving and providing feedback, measuring staff satisfaction and motivation, and then providing the tools to do all of this. Which brings you to what I think you're really trying to do, and that is employees being valued. Thank you, Bogdan. A very interesting presentation. And last, but certainly not least, is Natalia Korol. She's head of all the Ukrainian Association of Court Employees, and she's the chief of staff for the Vinnytsia Court of Appeal. Natalia?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for invitation. Thank you, dear Помела. Вітаю, колеги. Добрий ранок або добрий вечір.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you very much, Pamela. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. I will now share my presentation with you, and I will present you best experience and practices that we apply in Vinnytsia Appellate Court on the conditions of new realia. I was listening to all the presentations. I noted then the representatives of the US and Singapore were talking. We had some 300 participants attending. Now some people obviously left. That is why I'm grateful to all those who stayed until the end. So, speaking of my going down actually to my presentation, I would like to start by saying about one of my recent experiences, which was not very good. Actually, the situation consisted in the following. We hired a person on the 15th of December 2024, and he resigned on the 30th of December 2024, thus in 2 weeks after being hired, and it was that was a person who was hired for the purposes of procurement. That was very disappointing, but I think that the problem lays not with the ex-employee, but with something bigger. I often remember the quote by Peter Drucker, which goes as follows: "Much of what we call management consists in making it difficult for people to work." And I think it's something that might have happened to the person I mentioned. That is why I truly believe that proper management is crucial for the success of an organization in terms of retaining people. Now, a bit of statistics for 2023, because the recent one is not available yet. So the statistics is taken from the website www.gallup.com, and the statistics available tells us that 52% employees throughout the world are actively searching for a new job. The same website tells us that people would rather resign because of culture and management. So 2 times more often they would resign because of culture and management compared to the amount of salary. Oksana Tsimbrivska mentioned in her welcome speech how important court management is in the understanding of the European Union and technical assistance projects implemented by EU, and why so much support is provided in this within this particular area. So what is important for people once they become part of an organization? According to the same website, Gallup, it is involvement in the first place. I've heard once at an event which I attended that it is it is better to have an involved employee in place rather than a satisfied employee, because once all the needs are satisfied, a person is not more interested in the development, while it applies to various spheres of life, including to work when it comes to a workplace. While an involved person may not have all his or her needs satisfied, but he or she feels that he is an important part of an organization, it makes him or her believe and feel that he or she is being heard and that their needs are addressed. So why involvement is so important when it comes to emotional state of each particular employees. So the research tells us that disengagement, this lack of involvement is often perceived worse and feels like worse than not so that being unemployed. So coming back to the judicial system, one understands well that proper operation of courts will not be possible if employees feel disengaged, if they do not feel involved, because the lack of this feeling leads to the lack of understanding of the purpose of one's work, of one's activity, and it leads to the lack of interest and motivation. And here come to the question of leadership. So the role of a leader can hardly be underrated. In my understanding, leadership is also about being open, about being honest. It is about not promising what you cannot do actually, and if it so happens that you promise something while being unable to do that, then you need to be ready to explain why, what happened. So this is again about proper communication. What I also understood is that employees need autonomy. They need a certain level of independence and need this feeling of belonging to a team, to an organization. So recent research show that remuneration is less important than being motivated, than proper motivation. So I've recently suggested my colleagues to answer 4 questions which are displayed in this slide. They go as follows. How much economy do you have in your daily activities? How much autonomy do you have in terms of allocating your working hours? How much autonomy you have in respect to your teammates, meaning that are you free to choose people to work with? And the 4th question was how much autonomy do you have in organizing your work? In other words, in choosing approaches, work approaches that are the most convenient for you. So in this slide, you can see the breakdown by questions. So these numbers are percents, and as you can see, the percentage is not the rates are not that high, especially when it comes to the autonomy in choosing people to work with. Question number 3. And it was quite expected to find out, so this is quite an expected result, to find out that people are more autonomous in terms of choosing their approaches to work. So in other words, how they do their work. So nobody would micromanage them and tell them you need to do this or that in order to achieve a particular result or complete a particular task. Now, if we move on, I would suggest to talk about competence, which is another important factor for motivation of people. So it is of extreme importance to make sure that people can display and make their best and demonstrate their competence. In order to do that, one needs to have the goals of the organization clearly defined and communicated to all the employees. It is important to not to be over controlling if you are a manager, and it is important to be open to your subordinates. So one of the solutions may be having this open door principle exercised on a daily basis, meaning that a subordinate may come to his line manager, to his supervisor, and talk frankly at any moment in time, and not only on a particular day, once a month or 2 times a month. So, now, this feeling of belonging. As a manager, you may want to observe your subordinates and to pay attention to the following: whether they which pronouns they use when they talk about the organization, whether they say we when it comes to something that a company has done or got involved in, or whether they use the pronoun they, which means that they do not feel as part of the organization.
That is true that best employees are secretly planning their exit, planning to quit if they don't get the best opportunities. I might be repeating what we heard already, but in all elements in terms of work-life balance, remuneration, career development, etc. Remuneration, it's just one point, but it's only one of the many. The hard truth is that money alone won't keep your best people. We hear and we say a lot that the court staff members, we heard 27,500 people there. There is a huge problem with the underappreciated and undervalued situation when it comes to the salaries of the court staff. But the hard truth is that we will keep our best people if we as managers recognize our mistakes, because I also have a direct line manager. If we're sincere, if we are open, that will keep our best people. And if we make sure that we cover basic needs, autonomy, competencies, and engagement and being part of the team. Thank you so much for your attention. Should there be any questions, I'll be happy to answer them in chat. And availing myself of this opportunity, I suggest that court staff members join the QR code if you want to be a part of NGO All Ukrainian Association of Court Employees. With the support of EU Project Pravo-Justice, we are planning to implement a big a year and a half project that's called Relaunching Access to Justice by Implementation of Model Solutions. It's going to be a logical continuation of the next phase of Model Courts initiative in Ukraine. There are over 100 model courts in Ukraine. We hope that there will be even more implementing this initiative. Thank you so much for your attention and for your time.
Natalia, providing Gallup poll results showing more than 50% of employees are looking for other employment should give some of you comfort that you are not alone. But on the other hand, are we doing our best with employee satisfaction? Natalia made a good point. Don't promise what you can't do, but engage and communicate belonging with employees, as money won't do it alone. Thank you, Natalia.
Thank you so much.
So all good things must come to an end. We do have a couple of questions in our chat. And most of them have to do, I am told, Svetlana, they are in Ukrainian. I cannot read.
Yes, I sent to you the translation that the most questions are related to motivation when the salary is low.
Well, I think Natalia answered that a little bit, that salaries don't necessarily, and I think that is worldwide, you know, unless it's huge amounts of salary that no one else can touch, which I don't think any of us are in that predicament. Salary, all studies have shown that is not a motivating factor. It might be the day you get that raise, but beyond that, it doesn't net out to what you think it would. And if that's all the questions, I would like to say that all good things come to an end. But by pooling our knowledge and our expertise, it's our hope that we can help you develop actionable solutions to support the future of our courts and strengthen the foundation of our judicial systems in order to serve the people who enter our court systems with distinction. We must have employees that are engaged. In conclusion, thank you so much to our presenters, IACA, EU Pravo-Justice, and the State Judicial Administration of Ukraine, and notably, all of you joining us today. This partnership looks forward to bringing additional webinars to you over the next 3 quarters of 2025, so please be looking for webinar invites from IACA. Thank you for joining us today. We deeply appreciate your attendance, and we wish all of you the best that life can offer. Thank you.